George Kilpatrick, inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. We got Joe Horan in the house. He's the executive director and founder of the Building Men program in Syracuse. Been a teacher in the Syracuse City School District for over 30 years. But now we must call him an author, a teacher, a coach, a man. His debut memoir out now. I got an advanced copy, but it's out now, and you can find it wherever books are sold. But this is Joe's very, very revealing, passionate journey of what he's gone through in his life. And Joe, the first thing I got to ask you, first of all, congratulations on the book.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was sharing it with some of my team. I said, look at this, look at this, look at Joe. He's like, oh, wow. Sharing it with some of my team. One of the things I want to know, what made you want to write this book?
Well, what I thought about after I started writing it is that when I was teaching phys ed at Levy back in the day with Shirley Benning, she was one of my mentors, and she said, these things are so funny, we should write a book. But I never thought about it much until just before COVID. This author, Greg Boykins, came up from Alabama to do professional development for Syracuse City School District. And they let us have lunch with him. And my staff was giving and taking and talking to him. And he goes, you guys should be doing the PD. You guys should write a book. And it was like, boom, it just like hit me. I'm like, yeah. And I could not shake the thought. I couldn't shake it for a couple months. And then I'm like, okay, I have a little extra time. It's COVID. Let me write a book.
So you wrote this book during COVID. So people did a whole lot of things during COVID, left That's jobs, right. Started new careers. You decided that you were going to write a book.
Yeah, 20, 30 minutes every morning before I went to work, had a little extra time because work started a little bit later. And I'm like, let's do it.
And what was that like for you?
In the beginning, it was, it seemed kind of like the right thing to do to get the story of Building Men out. And then one of the teachers I work with, Mrs. Marzullo, said, Joe, you're glossing over it. You have to dig a little deeper. And then, so I started digging a little deeper, and it was a lot of self-reflection, and it was a lot of like, wow, maybe this could help somebody. Maybe my journey could help somebody.
Yeah, and it's very vulnerable. Like, you lay it out bare. And when you started out, was that what people were saying? So some of those folks who were reading your first draft, no, we need more, because you pretty much put it on the table, and you really, if you will, out yourself in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, she said, if you don't really tell them, they won't finish the book. And the other part was that she says, you have a story that can help somebody. And so it went from more of, I want to talk about building men. It went into a direction of, well, I need to tell my story first, and the hopes that some people connect with it and resonate with it and will walk this journey.
So you write about growing up on the near west side of Syracuse, and not a family of means, and you talk about your own discovery of who you were and what you thought you had to be. And by the way, Joe and I have done a lot of work together over the years. We're in the book.
You guys have your own chapter.
I saw that. I was like, oh, we'll get to that because that's actually pretty. I actually remember the actual session that you referenced in the title, which is about race, which is a journey that you'll talk about in a little bit. But you talk about the premise of the Building Men program is be a man, and not the man. And so explain what that means and what you began to discover about yourself.
And so in my growing up, I thought I had to, be the star athlete, be very popular with women, be able to, I couldn't be me. I had to be somebody else, the people that we all look up to, and to gain popularity and to be in a popular group. And then when I started teaching, I saw all these young boys following the same path, is that they would try to one up each other so they can get on the top, so they could be the most popular person in the school. And that all comes down to I wasn't feeling worthy. I wasn't feeling like I was enough, and so many of our young boys feel that same way, is that I'm not enough. I have to do more. I have to be the best, and there's such a problem now with our youth, and I resonate with that they feel like I'm not valued. I'm not enough. I have to be somebody that I'm not to get all the attention and the affection and the worth. And that's not right.
And the interesting thing, Joe, is as you experience it as a young person, you think that's what you should be doing, right? It's only upon reflection now, it seems to me that you now know that you had it, you didn't have it right. It wasn't lined up the way you wanted it to be. Or did you already know then that you weren't being yourself?
Um, I mean, I know more now, in reflection, like you said. There were times that I knew I was trying to be somebody else I wasn't, and that's the main thing we try to do with the boys in Building Men, is to get them to realize that they are enough. They are priceless. They are valuable. They don't have to put on a show to be somebody. Their authentic self is enough.
You write about it's so funny because you talk about you raised in the church, you have a very strong foundation, you serve the church, and when you went away into other circumstances, those values seem to, like, you, it's almost like you were afraid to live those values that were so embedded in you.
Yeah. I I so longed for the affection and the approval of others, that I gave them up. I wanted to run with the people that I thought were popular and that were cool and everybody wanted to hang out, and I gave up who I was to be with them. 100%.
Yeah, and giving up who you were, what did you do? How did you mask who Joe really was?
Oh, I just, I started drinking and drugging, and then my life just spiraled down at that point. I just couldn't live with myself, and doing what I was doing. And so I had to continue to mask it.
Mm. And to me, as I read your story, it's almost like you were spared because you've you turned all of that around to bless other people. But it's just almost as if you had to go through those things to be where you are today.
And I don't know I mean, if I had to go through it, but by going through it, it has made me into a whole different person, with a whole new perspective, and I heard this phrase a couple months ago, repurposed pain. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happened.
When did you learn how to deal with the pain, and how did you learn how to deal with it?
Hmm. That was a Yeah, that was mainly through my journey of recovery, you know, um, and the sponsors and the mentors that I had, and I had to seek some counseling, and really just kind of look at, what was the root, where'd it come from, through a lot of prayer, a lot of just seeking divine help, just really pushed me through that.
You know, as I know you, uh, you do seek out people, and you're first to admit I don't know something, right? Which is so not what traditional masculinity says you're supposed to do. Speak to that.
I just at some point, I realized that, and I talk a little bit about it in the book, is, when my first marriage crashed and burned, it was because I continue to have that outlook that I'm a man, I'm supposed to know how to do it, and let me go do it. And I wasn't seeking any help. I wasn't talking to people that were successfully married. I wasn't talking to people that were in great relationships. I just thought, because I'm me, I should know how to do it. And that's how most hard lessons in my life have happened, is because I don't talk to people and I think that I should know how to do it. Like somehow somebody gave me some manual in my brain and I should know how to do it. And that's just not how it happens. And now, since that point, I make an effort at surrounding myself with people that, are in good relationships, that know what being a man is about. My friends changed, my people I hang out with changed. I seek people that have been further down the road and in all areas of my life. It's funny. I thought, I just had one person can help me, and now I have like probably 8 different people to help me in different aspects of my life because there's still room to grow.
How difficult was it to replace the people in your life? Because that is probably and this is really a lesson, especially for young people. That's probably the most difficult thing for them to do, because you're hanging with a crew and this is your crew. And I've often said this, even as somebody who grew up in many ways, in some similar ways, I had to cut off, whatever they prune, whatever you want to call it. I really literally had to cut off some of the folks that I was hanging out with because we just weren't on the same trajectory. Love them, great friends, and still connect with them to some extent, but not in the same way. And so it's hard to leave a circle if you want to grow, but you have to do it if you're going to grow. How difficult was it for you?
Well, it's hard, but it's necessary because, like as you said, I was going in a different direction, and and the funny thing is that there's always been somebody put in my life that could help me in this area, So it's kind of like I was led to different people, to seek different, to seek wisdom, and, I was led right into your life and brought me on a whole nother journey, and I don't look at it as I had to leave other people behind as much as there's other people for me to meet.
It's interesting talking with Joe Horan. The new book is called A Teacher, a Coach, a Man. And the whole idea, from what I gather from just being around you, is to serve our youth in the community, right? To give them a hope, give them a sense of brotherhood, to give them a sense of camaraderie, to give them a sense of belonging, which a lot of people don't have, or a lot of people aren't connected to. Talk about one of the chalk talks you did at Danforth School.
Oh, that was a very interesting turning point, and so I went in there with, I just be honest, right? A little bit of arrogance, a little bit of, I know what's going on. And so I had this group of probably about 12, 6th and 7th graders that did not know me. And I went in there and I was trying to teach them. And they weren't having it. There's like, who is this guy? Who is this white guy trying to convince me to, to be a man? And they were having side conversations. They were yelling and screaming. They weren't paying attention to anything. And then me, I'm plowing through the chalk talk. I'm not going to let anybody, deter me from what I got to do. And then I left and, reflected upon that. And it's like, why, if I was in that room, I wouldn't have believed me either. I wouldn't have listened to myself either. I didn't tell them who I was. I didn't share my story with them. They didn't know me from anybody. I didn't relate with them. I went from a place of power and privilege to try to teach people, and that has never been successful for me.
What's been one of the and so the lesson, because the book also is full of life lessons. You talk about the lessons that you learn, so that's the teacher part. But then you, as a teacher, said, "Now your turn. What do you learn? What's been the most humbling part of this journey for you?"
Wow, that's a good one. Is that I can't connect with every kid,
Ooh, that's powerful, right?
And that at one point I thought, I could connect with every kid. The Building Men program could help every kid. Um, you know, but the humbling thing is that, I'm one of many programs in this wonderful city, and there's tons of great programs in this city. And I realized that, I have a lane. There's a group of kids that are drawn to our program and that we can impact and influence, but not everybody. There's some people that are drawn to like the Good Life Foundation or to Hillside or all these other great programs in our city. And then I'm a part, and it's humbling, but it's also freeing in a sense that,
Hmm.
I just need to do me and do what I've been given to do.
And I don't want to bury the lead here, but explain what the Building Men program actually is.
Oh, so we're a group mentoring program. We're an after school program in the city of Syracuse. We do a lot of things around, masculinity, leadership. We do a lot of activities, and everything we do, the whole point is to get in a conversation about manhood. You create a safe space where boys feel comfortable asking questions and
Hmm.
talking to each other about things that we normally wouldn't talk about on the basketball court, we normally wouldn't talk about at a bus stop, and to give them an opportunity to explore, so some different questions, some different aspects of being a man.
How did you get comfortable on your own journey?
That was a quite of a long journey. You know, as you know, you hoodwinked me into uh, to a couple different, through MVP and through a
Which
youth
is Mentors and
leadership,
Violence Prevention program, which is a teen youth mentorship program. Go ahead.
right? And you told me it was going to be great for my team. You didn't tell me what was going to happen to me, and then the youth leadership program, another one that you said were going to be great for the teens. You didn't know how much it's going to hurt me. And, it was, it took a while because I was not a good man in college.
Mm, mm,
Not women correctly. I did not have a healthy relationship for many, many, many years. And so it took a lot of, it was hard having discussions about, what is being a real man and how do you treat a woman and, how do you, have healthy relationships when I didn't have any.
mm.
And so it was a lot of, first time I went to something like that, I just froze. I broke down. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even engage after a while. And then it took a little while, but you were persistent, and just having these conversations and making me reflect and going asking for forgiveness and just praying and figuring out, all right, how do I do this the right way? And then talking to people about what is a healthy relationship.
And when Joe says we hoodwinked him, he's talking about our 12 men model, which he mentions in the book, which we told him was about a leadership development and it's going to be good for your team. But we actually were talking about ways to unpack our relationship with women and how we have some work to do in that area. I'm interested also. I was very surprised. I don't want to say surprised, but you really get into your own privilege. And there's a couple of stories in here that you write about that I was surprised that you decided to include because that's really vulnerable. Like race is the third rail in our community, in our country, and you went there. Why?
And I think other people may be able to relate to that. So here I am. I grew up on the Lower West Side. I'm on a basketball team. I'm on a track team with, black and brown kids, some of my best friends, right? Grew up um, all through high school, right? And so my feeling is I shouldn't be racist. I should not have any racist tendencies,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then, the more, that I'm working in the inner city, I'm teaching, I'm coaching these kids, should not have any racist tendencies, but yet they come out,
Mm.
you know, and then they were pointed out. And then I have situations and I'm like, holy cow, I didn't know. I didn't think that I could have that. And I did not realize how deep the racism is, how deep it is, on how much I've learned through society, through everything that, the whole systemic racism through, TVs and movies and education, how ingrained that was and how deep that was. I had no idea. I did not think that was going to impact me.
And when you first were confronted with it, your idea was, that ain't me. That has nothing to do with me. I have all these friends. I grew up in this kind of community. That ain't me. And then you started to check, wait a minute, there's some unconscious bias there. And there's some things that I'm doing, right, that you probably, it's like, oh, crap. I'll let people read this story about what happened to you in one of the Syracuse neighborhoods where you see these young people and you have an idea about who these young people. In fact, you said these are some thugs. I'll let people read about what happened in that interaction. But how did you feel after that?
I felt sad. I felt so sad. It was so automatic. There was no forethought, no forethought. It was just like right there, immediate. And I was like, holy cow, I really couldn't believe I thought that. And that it blew me away. And the whole rest of the ride, I was, trying to rationalize why I thought that, trying to make up, reasons why it was okay to think that. But I couldn't shake it.
Right.
That was just like, I couldn't believe that happened to me.
And we talked earlier about you saying that, we talked about Vera House and the 12-man model and how there's a whole chapter about that. And you write about one of the sessions that we had. Now, by this point, Joe, you had been through many iterations of the 12-man model. Mm-hmm. So this wasn't a new thing, but something new happened in one of the sessions.
Yeah. So, as you know, because you were there, right? We decided to extend it past the normal sessions. It was COVID, and the richness of the conversation was needed. People needed to talk. It was a way that we could come together in the middle of COVID, even though, we had to be apart. And I believe it was shortly after George Floyd was killed. And we were doing our usual check-in, and half of the staff was white, half the staff was black, and so people were checking in about George Floyd. And I don't remember exactly how it came out, but someone said, all right, white guys, it's your problem. What are you going to do to fix it? And immediately I got angry. Mm-hmm. The next thought was, he's right. And that kind of stirred a little spark inside to say, I need to work a little bit harder. I need to do more to help our young men of color overcome the obstacles that they're continuing to facing, to see if I could do something to kind of pave the way. And so that was kind of a wake-up call. And that's something that I continue to work on every day.
Joe, it's so humbling to talk to you. Humbling in that you put it all out there and you're not afraid to share your lessons. What then would you hope that the reader takes away? What do you want people to do with this work that you've put together, aside from learning very intimate details about your life? And again, hats off to you, brother, because it's a lot to put all of your pain out there and say, this is who I am for real. And now, can you accept this? Can you accept me completely for me bearing my soul in this way? What do you want the reader to take away?
That they're not alone. Right. And so when I was struggling with some of these things in my life, I felt isolated. I felt by myself. I felt like I was the only one to experience it, until I met somebody on the journey that had some of the same hurts or the same pains or the same trials. And then when you feel like you're not alone, there's hope. And so I'm hoping that maybe somebody connects with some parts of my story and say, hey, there's hope, right? That he made it through this, I can make it through it too. He was able to, overcome this obstacle. Maybe I can overcome it too. And I just hope I can do that.
And I just got to say, knowing you personally, I know that you do have a heart to serve, and that it says journey to the heart, and you lay it all on the line. And I think the bottom line is our young people need help, but also we need to look inside and help ourselves, right? and be able to connect and talk and chat with other men in particular, right? Being able to do that fearlessly, Joe, I think you do that very well in the book. We got a couple of things that people to check out. On this Thursday, the 16th, will be the official book launch at the Salt City Market in downtown Syracuse from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. June the 16th. That's this Thursday coming up. And then, or next Thursday coming up. And then on June the 20th, you can meet Joe, who'll sign your book at the Barnes & Noble in DeWitt. So 2 events to check out. The launch at the Salt City Market on the 16th of June, and then June 20th, you can meet him at the Barnes & Noble in DeWitt. Anything you want to leave us with, Joe, regarding a teacher, a coach, a man?
No, nope. I mean, I appreciate you having me on here. I love the opportunity to talk to you and to talk about this. And, I just hope we can continue to strive and help our young men in Syracuse.
Last thing, though, Joe, because I can't let you leave without asking you, what do we need to do collectively through all of our groups and organizations for our young boys, particularly our Black and brown youth? What do we need to do?
Create a space which they feel comfortable, where they can talk and they can gain some healing, right? You mentioned earlier, if we could create a brotherhood, we can create them a group of young men that can walk together this journey. And and I found in my own life, when I have a group of friends that I can walk this journey with, it kind of insulates me from all of the distractions and all of the negative on the outside. I don't think we were made to walk this alone. So if we can collectively, create this insulation, this band of brothers that are going to work together and help each other and keep each other in check, I think we can do something.
That's Joe Horan. Get his book, A Teacher, a Coach, a Man. June 16th launches at the Salt City Market, 6 to 7 p.m. And then meet him at the Barnes & Noble at DeWitt. What time is that going to be at the Barnes & Noble?
6 to 8.
6 to 8. All right, get your book signed. All right, Joe, good luck with the book, and continue doing the ministry of serving the youth in our community.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, George.
Inspiration for the Nation.